Peyton, thanks for coming on. Peyton also works with Face Off Academy Carolina. So he runs the
Mm.
show down in the Carolinas. So Peyton, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you having me on here a little bit. Talk about the recruiting that I went through.
Yeah. Well, that's, kind of my corner of the Face Off Academy is just getting a sense of kind of how a guy's recruiting process goes because it's not the same for everybody. And I think the biggest thing that some kids don't quite realize is, they see like the big time guys go right away and it starts to kind of induce some anxiety. So I want to
Mhm.
show guys that great face-off guys, great lacrosse players get picked up throughout all points in the process. They end up in great spots. And, like they just want to know that there's coaches out there looking for them. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do here. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, why don't we start with like where you grew up, what high school and what club teams did you play for?
Yeah. So not a very, in terms of the lacrosse world, not a very glamorous, kind of startup. Went to a public high school in Raleigh, North Carolina, Athens Drive. Played for a club team called Tar Heel Lacrosse Club that's not even around anymore. And it was a really cool experience because, Raleigh and the Charlotte area, North Carolina, has exploded recently with lacrosse. But back when I was kind of coming up, it was a lot more like, mom and pop shop club teams compared to these Team 91s and Team 24/7 that are huge, have thousands of players within them. But yeah, so I mean, I didn't even pick up a stick until I was 12. So going into my eighth grade year. And then I started taking face-offs, loved it. And then eventually I kind of wanted to pursue in college. But kind of how that worked was, again, I knew my situation and from talking with people, you're not really going to get recruited in public high school, at least by this, Division I schools or higher level D2, D3s. Um, so I ended up joining this club team that was great, and we were actually pretty solid team, well together. It's basically all the best players from Raleigh, Charlotte, or no, excuse me, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, and Durham on a team together. But I think the biggest thing was you have to put yourself out there, and that's what that club team tried to do for us. We would go to Baltimore. We had to travel to go to where the coaches are going to be, because I think for the top 1-2% of players, the coaches will find them, but for the other 98% of us, we have to put ourselves out there. So that was kind of I love playing the high school lacrosse, but I knew club was where I was going to get recruited.
Right. And so in the club scene, kind of who are those guys that were kind of encouraging you to get yourself out in front of coaches and to reach out and contact these schools that maybe you're interested or maybe didn't even have any clue of who you were?
Yeah, so I mean, it actually kind of started. The Face Off Academy started in 2012, and I went to I think it was their first ever clinic ever or second, and that's where I kind of met Greg, and they kind of told me like, and I actually won that. I drove up to Philly from North Carolina, won that, and it was actually Greg was one of the first people to kind of explain to me a little bit what I needed to do. But then my club coach at the time, Dan Morrison, explained to me like, hey, you need to create first off a highlight tape. You need to have your transcripts ready, and you need to write down a list of schools that some dream schools, some ones that are relatively within your reach, and just start sitting on emails and trying to get in contact with them. But yeah, Dan Morrison, and then some of the guys at Face Off Academy early on kind of pointed me in the right direction.
Yeah. So I think obviously with the Face Off Academy guys, Greg and Jerry, they probably gave you a good sense of maybe where they thought, you could be looking, but also I'm sure that they had at that time even coaches in their ear asking if they had a guy, like
Yeah.
right now that's what I'm here for to hopefully kind of bridge that gap for coaches and kids. But I think, I think that's really important to know that like coaches are reaching out to advocates, like whether it's a club coach or Greg and Jerry all the time. And I think just being prepared, like your one club coach was saying, you want to have all this stuff ready to go so that when coaches do touch base with you or you reach out to them, they have everything they need right away and they can get all that stuff out of the way and just get to know you and see if you're going to be a fit for them. Right.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So at that point, you're being encouraged to kind of do your own homework, which is what every kid should be doing, and
Yep.
finding some schools like and tiering them, right? Some reach schools, and then some, some maybe more realistic or more attainable stuff. But where did you start? Like, and
Mhm.
what schools really kind of came back and were like, hey, we're really interested. let's have a conversation here.
Yeah. So, well, one of the things that I'm actually really excited about for kids coming up through, high school now is that when I started playing lacrosse, the guys in my grade were already committed. So, like, being from North Carolina, I started playing lacrosse in 8th grade. And I think by the time I was a freshman in high school, almost every ACC school was like, yeah, we're done with the 2016 class that I was in. So that already eliminated a lot of my dream schools, like kind of off the bat. But I started, thinking about a little bit what I wanted to major in, and actually one of the biggest reasons why I went to Marist is my club coach Daniel Morrison. His son was a freshman at Marist when I was a sophomore. So through that connection, I started talking to Marist. But yeah, I mean, I took my first visit when I was, I think I was 16. I took my first visit to Rutgers, and all that started was from the national showcase. Chris Mattis was at the time part of the Face Off Academy, and he played at Rutgers, and they saw me there. And that's like how I got introduced to, my first college coach was actually at the national showcase. And then through there, I kind of understood like, okay, if they're interested and they're going to take the time out for me, I can start aiming for a lot of these higher schools. And started talking with Navy and Denver and a few other SoCon schools. And then kind of started figuring out who actually was interested in me. And I think a big thing for me was trying to figure out which coaches actually wanted me to go visit their program and actually wanted me to be a part of it, compared to coaches who kind of had me in their rearview mirror or wanted me just to be a slot on a prospect day, just to fill a number. I think that kids need to pay attention to some of the signs that coaches actually are going to be wanting you to come to campus, show interest in you, and talk more in detail about your play instead of just saying, yeah, you're a decent player. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you start making some visits and some of these schools that are you feel are more interested in you. What is
Mm-hmm.
it that stood out about Marist against all the rest? Like, obviously you have a former teammate or a coach's son that's there is probably saying great
Yeah.
things. Obviously Marist is an awesome little school right up in Poughkeepsie,
Yeah.
but plays in the MAC conference. It's a really fun conference to play in. I would imagine that's one of the only conferences I feel like I didn't coach in, but played
Yeah.
plenty of those schools, in my time coaching, and like obviously some really high level lacrosse, and always one of the more fun conference tournaments to watch on TV because you never knew it was going to
Definitely.
happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Exactly.
what was it like compared to, give me another school that you were seriously considering, and what really was the biggest factor in you choosing Marist?
Yeah, no, I'll give you kind of an example of this. So I mentioned before, my first visit was at Rutgers, and I felt like every time I ran into these guys at tournaments or showcases, it was almost like I was kind of begging to get them to talk to me. Like they were like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" It wasn't like they were like going to all my games and really eager to talk to me afterwards or text me. And on the flip side, Coach Wilkinson at Marist was sending me handwritten letters, saying like, "Good luck in your football game," throughout the fall. And really was talking about how I can make an impact on that program and what I could do for them. And I think that kind of just making me feeling almost belonging there before I'm even on campus was great. And that's what made me even just go up and take that visit, because it's tough. And I think for a lot of kids from outside of the Northeast, they're going to have to travel unless for me, unless I was going to play either Duke, High Point, or UNC. If I was going to play the Division I level, I was going to have to travel at the minimum 4 hours away from home. Um, so I think that is something a lot of kids have to accept, is like, hey, if I really want to play at this level or a higher level, D2, D3, and I'm going to have to accept the fact that I may have to go far away from home. And I think that Coach Wilkes made it apparent that even though I'm going to be so far away, close to 11 hours from where I'm from, that I'm going to be completely welcomed in with open arms, and it'll be a seamless transition. And I don't think I got homesick one time when I was up there.
Yeah, well, that's definitely unusual, having a kid like that come all the way
Yeah,
away, and what a culture
exactly.
shock. Like the Northeast is not the Mid Atlantic.
Nope.
It's very, very different. And just as a recruiter, like a recruiting coach, you're always curious about kids from just different climates a lot of times, or
Mhm.
different areas of the country. Like, how is he going to respond to winter, something like
Yeah.
that. So
And one thing I was gonna say too, real quick, is like, it I tell my guys this, and I think the biggest part of what helped me was being proactive. I think when kids get so complacent with, especially being from an area where you can't just show up at a high school field and there's going to be college coaches there, you have to travel and you have to take the extra steps to get these coaches to look at you. Just sitting back and waiting them for come to you is not going to happen. There's so many good players all over the country now. You have to be proactive and you have to reach out to people like yourself that have know this process in and out, to help guide you through that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think that's kind of just what I've tried to share with a lot of kids I have been able to talk to so far. And,
Mhm.
um, I think guys like you are great examples of there's talent coming from everywhere now, but also that sometimes there's so many kids out there that if you do your part in putting yourself in front of coaches, not just showing up to events and traveling and going to prospect days, but being consistent with communication and just making sure that the coaches get to know you as well. It's going to make their jobs easier. you know Interesting stories or kind of things about your recruiting process, things that really led to you making your ultimate decision? Or was it just, Marist had an opportunity to play lacrosse, and I would imagine you had a major in mind, or academically it fit kind of what you were looking for, correct?
Yeah, no, I definitely think the academic part's huge. I mean, obviously, you want to go to a school that, like, for example, if you want to do business, which I feel like a lot of lacrosse guys want to do, make sure it's an accredited school, or make sure that it has some sort of discipline that you want to go into. But I think one interesting story, and this was kind of one of the biggest reasons why I literally think I committed 3 days after this happened. Coach Wilkes was sending me his handwritten letters, and everything was going great, but I was getting interest from Navy. My dad was in the Air Force for a long time, and I really thought that may be the route I wanted to go. And the Marist coach, Coach Wilkes, came to a tournament, and I got my teeth kicked in. Like, literally, this kid, like, I think I won like one face off. Like, I got murdered. And Coach Wilkes was on the sideline, and he knew, like, after the game, I looked upset. I was like, damn, like, he's going to drop me. There's no way he's going to prove me. And he was like, don't even worry about that. Like, you're our guy. And I think I committed like 3 days later. And, like, I think that point where coaches, you can kind of understand that they really want you and they believe in you. Um, and I knew that that's going to be somewhere I wanted to go for 4 years. I think it's one of the main things kids need to keep in mind is that, you're making a commitment for 4 years. Don't make a commitment if you're only going to go there for two. If that's your intent, then don't go to the school. It's not the right school for you. And I think that was kind of a big thing my parents talked about is, that if I wanted to make this commitment, that it had to be for 4 years at least going into it, pretty confidently. So yeah, that story I always sticks in my mind about that because I was like, dude, I just got crushed, and I was like, he's gonna drop me for sure. And then he was like, no, you're our guy, like, without a doubt, like, don't even worry about that. So that was really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Peyton, that was awesome. I really appreciate your time, and I know the kids, the FOA, and anybody else that'll see this will really enjoy that. And
Yeah.
thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. Appreciate it, Corey.